The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Thousands of alien species sat in their designated sections, their bodies shaped by evolution on worlds humanity had never seen. Some breathed methane, others existed as pure energy. A few were so ancient that they had watched stars being born. Ambassador Daniel Price stood alone on the human platform, a tiny figure surrounded by beings who had conquered galaxies, while his ancestors were still learning to use fire. 53 years old with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much death in recent months, the council speaker, a crystalline entity named Vorathos, floated at the center of the chamber. Light passed through its body and scattered into rainbows across the walls. The matter of the human colonies in Sector 7 has been reviewed, Vorathos announced. Its voice was like glass breaking, translated into 100,000 languages simultaneously. The Council rules that the Kathrani Empire acted within its territorial rights. The human settlements were established in disputed space, ordered to withdraw all citizens from the affected systems within 90 standard days. Daniel felt his hands begin to shake, not from fear, from rage. 3 months ago, the Kathrani had attacked without warning. Their warships had appeared above New Helsinki, New Cairo, and New Santiago. They had not asked for surrender. They had not issued demands. They had simply started killing. 2 million humans died in a single day. Families burned alive in their homes. Children vaporized in their schools. Hospitals targeted specifically because the Kathrani knew it would cause maximum suffering. And now the Council was calling it a territorial dispute. Daniel looked up at the Kathrani section of the chamber. Their representative, a massive reptilian creature, covered in golden scales, was smiling. The Kathrani had teeth like daggers, and they showed all of them when they were pleased. "Does the human ambassador wish to respond?" Vorathos asked. Daniel took a deep breath. In his pocket, he carried a message from Earth. President Catherine Ellis had given him very specific instructions. He had read them 7 times on the journey here, each time hoping the words would change. They never did. "Yes," Daniel said. "I wish to respond." He stepped forward, and his platform floated toward the center of the chamber. Every eye, every sensor, every consciousness in the room focused on him. For 193 years, humanity has been a member of this council, Daniel began. His voice was calm, steady. We joined as a young species, barely capable of traveling between our own planets. You welcomed us with open arms. You told us we would be protected. You told us we would be safe. He paused, looking around the vast chamber. We believed you. The Kathrani representative laughed. It was an ugly sound, like bones being crushed. We followed your laws, Daniel continued. When you told us we could not develop certain weapons, we agreed. When you told us we could not expand beyond certain borders, we accepted. When you told us our military must remain small, we obeyed. He turned slowly, making eye contact with as many delegates as he could. We did everything you asked, and in return you let our people be slaughtered like animals. The chamber was silent now. Even the Kathrani had stopped laughing. I came here expecting justice, Daniel said. I came here believing that this council, with all its wisdom and power, would protect the innocent. Instead, you have sided with murderers. You have told humanity that our lives mean nothing. Vorathos shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador Price. The council understands your grief, but the ruling has been made according to established law. Your law, Daniel said softly. Not ours. Not anymore. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. It contained every treaty humanity had ever signed with the council. Every agreement, every promise. I speak now with the full authority of Earth and all human colonies, Daniel announced. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties between Earth and Council species are void. All agreements are canceled. All obligations are ended. The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted in 1,000 languages. Some laughed with disbelief. Others stared in shocked silence. The Kathrani representative rose to his full height, nearly 12 feet of muscle and scales. You cannot be serious, he growled. Humanity is nothing. We were insects playing at being civilized. Without the Council's protection, You will be conquered within a year." Daniel looked at the massive alien without fear. "Perhaps," he said, "but we would rather die free than live as slaves to a system that values our lives so little." He crushed the data chip in his hand, letting the pieces fall to the floor. "There is something else you should know," Daniel added. "Something we have kept hidden for a very long time." The Kathrani representative narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" "He gave us 200 years, Daniel said. 200 years to watch, to learn, to understand how this galaxy really works." He smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "Did you really think we spent all that time doing nothing? You were monitored," another delegate called out. "You would have known if you were building weapons." "You monitored what we wanted you to monitor," Daniel replied. "You saw what we wanted you to see. You believed what we wanted you to believe." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the faces of the assembled delegates. "Humanity learned patience from you," Daniel continued. "We learned to plan for centuries instead of decades. We learned to hide our true capabilities behind masks of weakness." He turned back to the Kathrani. "We learned that in this galaxy, the only thing that matters is power." He began walking toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. "Wait," Varethos called out. "What have you built? What are you planning?" Daniel stopped at the door and looked back one final time. "You will find out soon enough," he said. "The Kathrani killed 2 million of our people. They will answer for that crime. And when they do, the rest of you will understand why humanity accepted your limitations so easily." He stepped through the door and let it close behind him. In the chamber, pandemonium reigned. Delegates demanded explanations, accused each other of incompetence, called for emergency sessions. The Kathrani representative was already sending messages to his emperor, warning him to prepare the fleet, but deep in their hearts, many of the ancient species felt something they had not experienced in millennia: fear, because they remembered their own histories. They remembered what it was like to be young and hungry and desperate to prove themselves. They remembered the rage that burned in species who had been humiliated and oppressed. And they knew, with terrible certainty, that humanity had not forgotten a single one of the lessons they had been taught. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you pushed humans too far. The question was whether anyone would survive to tell the story. Admiral Lisa Morgan had served in the human fleet for 31 years. She had commanded destroyers, cruisers, and carriers. She had fought pirates in the Outer Rim and escorted diplomats to Council worlds. She thought she had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. She was wrong. The shipyard was hidden inside, a hollowed-out moon in a system that did not appear on any official map. Lisa had traveled for 3 weeks through secret jump points to reach it, her vessel cloaked by technology that should not have existed. Now, she stood on an observation deck, staring through a window that was 200 meters wide. "My God," she whispered. Commander Kevin Grant stood beside her, his face pale. "That's exactly what I said when I first saw it." The ship before them was beyond anything Lisa had imagined. It stretched for 15 kilometers, its hull covered in weapon systems that violated every treaty humanity had ever signed. At its center, something glowed with the light of a captured star. "We call it the Wrath of Terra," Kevin said. "It's powered by a contained singularity, a black hole, basically. The energy output is enough to crack a planet in half." Lisa could not speak. She just stared. "There are 11 more like it," Kevin continued, "built in secret shipyards across human space. Behind them, we have 7,000 support ships and 3 million trained soldiers." Lisa finally found her voice. How is this possible?" "The Council monitored everything we did." Kevin smiled. "They monitored our official programs, our public shipyards, our registered facilities." He gestured at the massive vessel. "This was never official. This was never public. This was humanity's real response to being told we weren't allowed to defend ourselves." A door opened behind them, and a woman walked onto the observation deck. Lisa recognized her immediately and snapped to attention. President Catherine Ellis looked tired. She had dark circles under her eyes and gray streaks in her brown hair that had not been there a year ago. Leading humanity through this crisis was taking its toll. "At ease, Admiral," Catherine said. "We don't have time for ceremony." She walked to the window and looked at the Wrath of Terra. Her expression was difficult to read. "My grandfather helped. Designed the first generation of these ships, Catherine said quietly. He died before he could see them completed. So did my mother. They spent their lives on a project they knew they would never see finished. She turned to Lisa. That's how long we've been planning this. 3 generations of sacrifice and secrecy. Why me? Lisa asked. Why am I here? Because you're going to command our fleet, Kath. Ryan replied. You have more combat experience than any other officer. You understand alien tactics and strategies. And most importantly, you know how to win battles that seem impossible. Lisa felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. The Kathrani will come for us. You know that? We're counting on it, Catherine said. On the other side of the galaxy. Emperor Vorith received word of humanity's withdrawal from the Council. He laughed so hard that his servants feared he might hurt himself. The humans have gone mad, he declared. They think they can survive without Council protection? They think they can challenge the Kathrani Empire? His advisors agreed with him. The Kathrani had conquered 12 species over 10,000 years. Their fleet numbered in the tens of thousands. Their soldiers were genetically engineered for combat and knew no fear. What could the humans possibly do against such power? Send the Third Fleet to New Boston, Varath ordered. Destroy everything. Leave no survivors. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that forget their place. The Third Fleet was 500 warships strong. Each vessel was crewed by experienced warriors who had fought in a dozen campaigns. Their commander, Admiral Kreth, had personally overseen the destruction of 2 civilizations. He considered the mission to New Boston a waste of his talents. Humans, he growled, as his fleet entered hyperspace. Weak, fragile creatures. This will be over before dinner. The fleet emerged from hyperspace 3 days later, ready for battle. New Boston was a small colony, barely 1 million people. Its defenses were minimal. Kreth expected to be done within an hour. Then his sensors detected something strange. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, there's a vessel ahead. Just one, small, maybe the size of a cruiser. Kreth frowned. Just one? Are they surrendering? No, sir. They're holding position directly in our path. The Admiral studied the sensor data. The ship was unlike anything in the Kathrani database. Its design was sleek and angular, with no visible weapons ports. It should have been harmless, but something about it made Kreth uneasy. Open a channel, he ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing a human female with short black hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. Kathrani fleet, she said. You are entering human space. Turn back now, or you will be destroyed. Kreth laughed. You dare threaten us? With one ship? Human, you must be insane. The human smiled. My name is Captain Nicole Palmer, commanding the Silent Blade, and you're right, I must be insane. But then again, so is anyone who thinks they can attack our people and live to tell about it. She cut the channel. Drash shook his head in disbelief. Destroy that ship, he ordered. Then proceed to New Boston. 500 warships opened fire simultaneously. Enough firepower to shatter a moon. Enough energy to vaporize a small planet. None of it hit the Silent Blade. The ship moved in ways that seemed impossible. It danced between the streams of weapons fire like a leaf in the wind. And then it began to return fire. Kreth had never seen weapons like these. Beams of pure darkness that tore through his ship's shields like they weren't there. Missiles that phased through armor and exploded inside the hull. Energy pulses that disrupted his vessel's systems and left them drifting helplessly. Admiral, we've lost contact with 17 ships, his officer reported, voice shaking. No. 23. 30, 41. Kreth watched in horror as the Silent Blade carved through his fleet. It was unstoppable. It was everywhere at once. Every time they thought they had it targeted, it vanished and reappeared somewhere else. Fall back, he ordered. All ships, retreat. But the Silent Blade would not let them go. 7 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 483 Kathrani ships were debris. The survivors, fewer than 20 vessels, fled in different directions, broadcasting recordings of the massacre to anyone who would listen. Admiral Kreth was not among the survivors, Captain. Palmer sat back in her chair and took a deep breath. "Send a message to command," she said. "Tell them the Kethrani Third Fleet has been neutralized. New Boston is secure." Her crew was silent, still processing what they had done. What their ship was capable of, Nicole understood how they felt. She had seen the Silent Blade in testing, but using it in actual combat was different. Watching hundreds of ships explode in minutes, knowing that each one carried thousands of living beings, it was necessary, she told herself. They came to kill our people. They came to burn our world. But she knew she would see those explosions in her dreams for the rest of her life, across the galaxy. The recordings of the battle spread like wildfire. Species that had never heard of humans watched in disbelief. Empires that had dismissed Earth as irrelevant began pulling up every piece of information they could find, and on the Kethrani homeworld. Emperor Vorath sat in stunned silence as he watched the destruction of his fleet. For the first time in his long life, he felt something cold crawling up his spine. Fear. The humans were not what he thought they were. And now, he realized he had made a terrible mistake. The recordings of the battle played on every screen in the galaxy. News networks that had never mentioned humanity before now talked about nothing else. Military analysts studied every frame, trying to understand what they had witnessed. Governments held emergency meetings. Ordinary citizens asked questions that had never occurred to them before. Who were these humans? Where did they get such power? And what would they do next? On Earth, the mood was complicated. People celebrated the victory, but they also mourned the dead from the Kethrani attacks. They felt pride in their species' strength, but also fear about what the future might hold. Ambassador Daniel Price returned home to find himself treated as a hero. The speech he had given at the council was broadcast everywhere. Children memorized his words. Artists painted his portrait. Someone even wrote a song about him. Daniel hated all of it. He had not wanted to give that speech. He had not wanted to break humanity away from the council. He had simply done what was necessary because no one else was willing to do it. 3 weeks after the battle, he received a summons from President Ellis. He traveled to the White House. That ancient building that had somehow survived wars and disasters for over 5 centuries, Catherine met him in the Oval Office. She looked slightly better than before, the dark circles under her eyes a little lighter. "The council wants to negotiate," she said without greeting. Daniel nodded. He had expected this. Who are they sending? High Arbiter Salanith. Daniel raised his eyebrows. Salanith was one of the most respected beings in the galaxy. She was older than some star systems, and her word carried weight that few could match. Sending her was a sign that the council was truly desperate. "They're scared," Daniel said. "They should be," Catherine replied. "But I need your advice. Should we even talk to them?" Daniel thought for a long moment. He remembered all the years he had spent working within the council system, all the compromises he had made, all the insults he had swallowed. He remembered the faces of the delegates who had laughed when he demanded justice for the murdered colonists. "Yes," he said finally, "we should talk to them. Not because we owe them anything, but because we need to understand what they're willing to offer." "Knowledge is power." Catherine nodded. "That's what I thought too. I want you to be there when I meet with Salanith." Of course, the meeting took place 3 days later. Salanith arrived on a diplomatic vessel that was older than human civilization. She was a being of light and crystal, her form constantly shifting and changing. Looking at her was like looking at a living sunset. President Ellis received her in the White House gardens. It was a warm spring day, and the cherry trees were blooming. The contrast between the ancient alien and the peaceful earthly scene was striking. Ellis Salanith said, her voice like wind chimes. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "High Arbiter," Catherine replied. "Please sit." They settled into chairs that had been arranged near a fountain. Daniel stood nearby, watching and listening. "I will not waste your time with diplomatic games," Salanith began. "The Council is willing to offer humanity everything you were denied before. Full recognition as an equal species, unlimited colonization rights, a permanent seat on the Inner Council. All restrictions on your military development will be lifted." Catherine listened without expression. And in return, humanity rejoins the council and agrees to abide by its decisions. There was a long silence. The fountain bubbled softly. Birds sang in the trees.
Ow.
Catherine said. Solaneth's form flickered. I urge you to reconsider. This offer represents everything humanity has wanted for 2 centuries. You're right, Catherine said. It is everything we wanted. And you refused to give it to us until we showed you we could take it by force. She leaned forward. Do you understand what that tells us about your council? It tells us that you only respect power, that your laws and principles mean nothing when dealing with species you consider weak. That is not true, Solaneth protested. The council has maintained peace for millennia. Peace for whom? Daniel spoke for the first time. Peace for the strong species who sit at the top, or peace for the weak species who are sacrificed whenever it's convenient. Solaneth turned to look at him. Ambassador Price, I remember you from the council chamber. You spoke with great passion. I spoke the truth, Daniel said. The council let 2 million of our people die rather than anger the Kathrani. That is not justice. That is cowardice. The High Arbiter was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. I will not pretend that the council is perfect. We have made mistakes. We have sometimes failed to protect those who needed protection. She paused. But the alternative is chaos. Without the council, every species will fight for dominance. Wars will rage across the galaxy. Billions will die. Billions have already died, Catherine said. Under your watch, under your leadership, the council didn't prevent suffering. It just decided who would suffer and who would be protected. Solaneth's form dimmed. What do you want then? If not to rejoin the council, what future do you imagine for humanity? Catherine stood and walked to the edge of the garden. She looked up at the sky, at the stars that were invisible in the daylight but still there, waiting. We want to be left alone, she said. We will not rejoin the council. We will not sign treaties that bind our hands. We will expand into unclaimed space, building colonies for our people. And if anyone threatens those people, we will respond with force that will make the destruction of the Kathrani fleet look like a warning shot. She turned back to face the High Arbiter. Tell the council this. Humanity is no longer interested in being part of your system. We will go our own way. Other species can join us if they choose, or they can stay with the council. But if anyone, council member or not, attacks our people, there will be consequences. Solaneth rose slowly. You are making a dangerous choice. The galaxy is vast, and there are powers older and stronger than the Kathrani. Powers that have been sleeping for ages, and they should keep sleeping, Catherine said. Because if they wake up and decide to threaten humanity, they will find that we are not the weak species we once pretended to be. The negotiation ended there. Solaneth returned to her ship and departed for council space. Daniel watched her go, then turned to the president. She'll be back, he said. They'll try again. I know, Catherine replied. But by the time they do, we'll be even stronger. Every day that passes, we build more ships, train more soldiers, develop more weapons. She smiled grimly. The council spent 200 years underestimating us. They're about to learn just how badly they miscalculated. On the Kathrani homeworld, Emperor Voreth was not waiting for negotiations. He had seen the recordings of his destroyed fleet. He had read the reports from the survivors. He understood what humanity had become, and he knew that if he did not act quickly, the Kathrani Empire would be swept away like dust in a storm. He began sending messages to his military commanders, to his allies. To anyone who might stand with him against the human threat, the largest military operation in Kathrani history was about to begin. And this time, there would be no retreat. Emperor Voreth stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Pride of Kethra. Through the massive view screen, he could see his fleet assembling. Thousands of warships gathered from every corner of his empire. The largest military force the Kathrani had ever deployed. It had taken 3 months to bring them all together. 3 months of planning, of preparing, of convincing his allies that this war could still be won. Many had doubted him. Many had urged caution, suggested negotiation, even proposed surrender. Vorath had executed the loudest of those voices. The rest had fallen silent. How many ships? He asked his chief advisor, a scarred old warrior named Kreth the Younger, nephew of the admiral who had died at New Boston. 47,000 combat vessels, Kreth replied, plus support ships, troop carriers, and supply vessels. Nearly 100,000 ships in total. 15 million soldiers? Vorath nodded with satisfaction. The humans might have their secret weapons, but they could not have an endless supply of them. No species could produce enough ships to stand against such overwhelming force. And our allies? The Vortian Dominion has sent 2,000 ships. The Krelax Confederation? Another 3,000. Several smaller species have contributed what they can. Vorath smiled, showing all his teeth. The humans have made many enemies without realizing it. Every species they humiliated when they broke from the Council. Every empire that fears their rising power. They all want to see humanity brought low. He turned to face his command staff. Warriors who had served him for decades. Generals who had conquered worlds. The finest military minds the Kathrani Empire had produced. This is not just a war for territory, Vorath declared. This is a war for survival. The humans have shown that they will not accept their proper place in the galaxy. If we do not destroy them now, they will grow stronger. They will spread. And eventually, they will come for us. The officers growled their agreement. We will crush them, Vorath continued. We will burn their worlds. We will hunt down every last human in the galaxy and end their species forever. And when we are done, every other species will know what happens to those who challenge the Kathrani Empire. He raised his fist. For the Empire. 47,000 ships answered with a roar that shook the stars. On Earth, intelligence officer Hannah Cole studied the incoming data with growing alarm. Her team had been tracking Kathroni fleet movements for weeks. Watching as ships gathered from across their territory, they're betting everything on this attack, she reported to General Marcus Webb. If they win, humanity is finished. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon they have is being committed. Marcus studied the numbers on his screen. The disparity was staggering. Even with their technological advantage, humans were outnumbered by more than 6 to 1. What's their target? The neutral zone, Hannah said. They're gathering at the border, probably planning to punch through to Earth itself.
Yes.
Marcus nodded slowly. The neutral zone was a region of space that the Council had declared off-limits to all military activity. Neither the Kathrani nor humanity had any legal right to bring warships there. But laws meant nothing now. Only power mattered.
Get me Admiral Morgan,
he ordered. Lisa Morgan received the news aboard the Wrath of Terra. She had known this moment was coming. Everyone had known. The Kathrani were too proud, too stubborn to accept their defeat without trying to avenge it. How long until they reached the border? She asked. 3 days, came the reply. Lisa looked around her bridge. Her crew was young, most of them having never seen real combat before the war began. But they were well-trained and dedicated. They believed in what they were fighting for. Send the order to all ships, she commanded. Full deployment. Every vessel we have, we meet them in the neutral zone. Commander Kevin Grant looked at her with concern. Admiral, we'll be massively outnumbered. Even with our technology, I know, Lisa said quietly. But we can't let them get past us. If they reach Earth, if they reach our colonies, billions will die. She straightened in her chair. We stop them here, or we don't stop them at all. The human fleet assembled over the next 2 days. 12 capital ships, each one the size of a small moon. 7,000 support vessels of various sizes. 3 million soldiers in combat armor. It was everything humanity had. Every secret weapon, every hidden ship. Every soldier who could hold a gun. Lisa watched the fleet gather from her command chair. She thought about her parents, retired now and living on a quiet colony world. Her sister's children, too young to understand what was happening but old enough to be afraid. All the millions of people counting on her to protect them, Admiral, her communications officer reported, were receiving a transmission from the Kathrani fleet. Emperor Vorath himself. Put it through. The view screen flickered, and Vorath's massive form appeared. He was seated on a throne of gold and bone, surrounded by his guard. "Human commander," he growled, "I offer you one chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons, and I will grant your species a quick death. Resist, and I will make your suffering last for generations." Lisa studied the alien emperor. He was enormous, terrifying, confident in his power and his numbers. Everything about him radiated dominance and aggression. "Emperor Vorath," she replied calmly, "my name is Admiral Lisa Morgan. I command this fleet." "I don't care about your name," Vorath snarled. "I care about your answer. Will you surrender?" Lisa smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "You killed 2 million of our people," she said. "Innocent civilians, children. You burned our colonies and laughed about it. And now, you come here with your fleet thinking you can finish what you started." She stood up from her chair. "Here's my answer, Emperor. We will not surrender. We will not retreat. We will fight until every one of your ships is destroyed, or until every one of our ships is destroyed. There is no other outcome." Vorath leaned forward on his throne. "Then you choose death." "Maybe," Lisa said, "but we won't die alone." She cut the transmission. The two fleets faced each other across the void. Tens of thou. Sands of ships on one side, less than 10,000 on the other. The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. "All ships," Lisa ordered, "activate quantum stealth systems. Target their command ships first. Cut off their communications. Then, we tear them apart piece by piece." The human fleet vanished, not cloaked in any normal sense, but shifted slightly out of phase with regular space. They could see the Kathrani could target them, could fire upon them, but the Kathrani saw nothing but empty space. Vorath stared at his sensors in disbelief. Where did they go? Find them. His officers scrambled to obey, but there was nothing to find. The human ships existed in a space between dimensions, visible only when they chose to be. The first wave of attacks came without warning. Human ships materialized inside the Kathrani formation, fired devastating volleys, and vanished again before anyone could respond. Command ships exploded. Communications arrays were destroyed. Flag officers died without ever seeing what killed them. The mighty Kathrani fleet, the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen, began to fall into chaos, and the slaughter had only just begun. The battle lasted for 18 hours. 18 hours of chaos, destruction, and death on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. Admiral Lisa Morgan did not sleep. She did not eat. She stood on the bridge of the Wrath of Terra and commanded. Her fleet, through the longest night of her life, the Kathrani fought hard. They were not cowards, and they did not surrender easily. When their communications were destroyed, individual captains took initiative. When their formations collapsed, they formed new ones. When their ships were damaged, they rammed enemy vessels in suicide attacks. But nothing they did was enough. The human technology was simply too advanced. Ships that could phase in and out of normal space. Weapons that bypassed shields entirely. Sensors that could predict enemy movements before they happened. Every advantage the Kathroni thought they had evaporated in the face of 2 centuries of secret development by R12. Emperor Vorath knew he had lost. The pride of his fleet was burning around him. His allies had fled or been destroyed. More than 30,000 ships had been reduced to debris, but he refused to surrender. "All remaining ships, focus on the human flagship," he commanded. "If we can destroy their leader, perhaps the others will break." Hundreds of Kathrani vessels turned toward the Wrath of Terra. They fired everything they had, a storm of energy that lit up the void like a second sun. The Wrath of Terra's shields held. Admiral Kevin Grant reported, "The enemy is focusing their attack on us." "Shields at 87% and holding," Lisa nodded. "Let them come," signaled the Silent Blade. "It's time to end this." Across the battlefield, Captain Ryan Cole received the order. His ship had been hunting command targets for hours, appearing and disappearing like a ghost of vengeance. Now he had one final target: the pride of Kethra. Ryan studied the massive Kethrani flagship. It was surrounded by the last of the Imperial Guard, ships that would die rather than let their emperor fall. Target acquired, his tactical officer reported. Ryan thought about his sister Hannah, safe on Earth, but worried sick about him. He thought about his parents, who had lost friends in the colony attacks. He thought about all the humans who had died because the Kethrani believed themselves superior. "Open a channel to the pride of Kethra," he ordered. Emperor Voreth's face appeared on his screen. The alien looked different now. The confidence was gone, replaced by something desperate and wild. "Emperor Voreth," Ryan said, "you are surrounded. Your fleet is destroyed. You have lost." "I am Kethrani," Voreth snarled. "We do not surrender." "I know," Ryan said quietly. "I didn't call to ask for your surrender. I called to tell you why you're going to die." Voreth's eyes narrowed. "We attacked our colonies because you thought we were weak. You killed millions of innocent people because you believed we couldn't fight back. You came here with your fleet because you were certain your numbers would overwhelm us." Ryan leaned forward. "But you forgot something important. And what is that? Humans don't fight to win. We fight to survive. We fight because giving up is not in our nature. You can outnumber us, outgun us, surround us on every side. It doesn't matter. We will keep fighting until we win or until there's no one left to fight." Ryan gave the signal. The Silent Blade and 7 other human ships materialized around the pride of Kethra. They opened fire simultaneously. The Imperial Guard died in seconds. The flagship's shields lasted slightly longer, perhaps 10 seconds, before collapsing under the overwhelming assault. Emperor Voreth, ruler of the Kethrani Empire, conqueror of 12 species, terror of the galaxy for 10,000 years, died in his throne room as his ship exploded around him. His last thought was that he had been wrong about the humans. Terribly, fatally wrong. The news of Voreth's death spread quickly through the remaining Kethrani forces. The few thousand ships still capable of flight scattered in every direction, fleeing toward the edges of the galaxy. No one pursued them. There was no need. The Kethrani Empire, the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever known, had ceased to exist. 3 months later, President Catherine Ellis addressed the United Nations Assembly on Earth. The chamber was full, not just with human delegates, but with representatives from dozens of alien species who had come to witness this moment. "We did not seek this war," Catherine began. "We did not want to destroy the Kethrani. We would have been content to live in peace, to build our civilization, to explore the stars alongside other species." She paused, looking around the chamber. But peace was not offered to us. Instead, we were attacked. Our people were murdered. And when we asked for justice, we were told that our lives did not matter. Her voice hardened. "So we showed the galaxy that our lives do matter. We showed them that humanity will not be oppressed, will not be conquered, will not be erased. And we showed them what happens to those who try." She turned to face the alien delegates directly. "To those species who seek friendship with humanity, we welcome you. We will trade with you, learn from you, share knowledge and culture. Together, we can build something better than the Council ever was. To those species who prefer to remain neutral, we respect your choice. Stay out of our way, and we will stay out of yours. And to those who think they can do what the Kethrani tried to do, who believe they can attack our people and survive, I have this message: don't. What you saw in the neutral zone was not the full extent of our power. It was not even close. We have weapons you cannot imagine, ships you cannot detect, soldiers who will never stop fighting." She smiled, and it was the smile of someone who held all the cards and knew it. The universe trembled when Earth severed ties with the Galactic Council. It trembled because for the first time, the older species realized something that changed everything. They realized that humanity was never the prey. We were always the predator. We were just waiting for the right moment to show it. In the years that followed, humanity expanded across the galaxy. They built colonies on worlds that the Council had forbidden them from touching. They developed technologies that seemed like magic to other species. They created alliances with races who wanted to escape the old order. Admiral Lisa Morgan retired to a quiet colony world, surrounded by her family and honored by her nation. She never talked about the war unless someone asked, and even then, she spoke only of the people she had lost. Never of the victories she had won. Ambassador Daniel Price continued his work, building bridges between humanity and those species who genuinely sought peace. He became known as one of the great diplomats of his age, though he always said his greatest accomplishment was the speech he had never wanted to give. Captain Ryan Cole received a promotion and eventually commanded his own fleet. He named his flagship the Nicole, after the captain who had first shown the galaxy what human ships could do, and across the stars. In taverns and councils and whispered conversations, aliens told stories about the humans. They spoke of impossible ships and devastating weapons. They warned their children to be polite to the strange beings from the little blue planet, because everyone remembered what had happened when humanity was pushed to far. Earth had severed ties with the Galactic Council. The universe had trembled in fear, and it would never forget why.